fairy tale about the New World, the Queen of England, and the adventures of life. Leave, and you will arrive. Seek, and you will find. Love gives me strength. Chapter 1. The story of the beautiful Kamanza Rumi in the vast new world. What kind of garden is this? Out there in the distant world. It's the wonderful garden of Kamanza Rumi. The delicious fragrances and melodies bestow peace of mind. This garden was a tiny oasis amidst a huge desert. Kamanza tended the garden with love. Wondrous flowers and magnificent trees grew in it, and early in the morning the birds sang enchanting hymns with Kamanza. The proud peacocks and a pretty little deer lived in the garden. Kamanza herself looked like a large violin. Also, she had 14 strings, instead of 4 like a violin. 7 strings were below the fingerboard. When the 7 upper strings were played, a delightful sound came from the 7 lower ones, enveloping everything in a delicate silver veil of music and giving all who listened a sense of great well-being. A smile like a red rose will play around their lips. Are you smiling too? Kamanza was very diligent, and every day she would practice on her 14 strings. Sometimes she felt that her fingering was not so good, or that she was hearing a lot of wrong notes, and then she would play even more etudes and practice scales at a slower tempo. At the end of her exercise, she organized an improvisation competition. Then the passages she played herself were always swift and melodic, like the flight of a bird. The whole desert belonged to the wicked Hanja, who was deeply angered by Kamanza's little oasis. Hanja would dispatch firestorms, sandstorms, and even hurricanes. But Kamanza's oasis could not be destroyed because she had many friends who stood by her when times were hard. Her best friends were the cheeky little wind, Grandfather Thunder, the cloud, who was deeply in love with Kamanza, and Grandmother Thunderstorm. They were all dispatched to the oasis by Hanja, but they all went back to him afterwards and blew at him, thundered at him, and poured rain down on Hanja with all their strength. The cloud remained over the garden, bathing the oasis in a gentle warm rain after all the terrible storms. Grandfather Thunder and Grandmother Thunderstorm so enjoyed Kamanza's concert that they applauded with thunder and lightning. Then Kamanza said, "You are making me so much noise that I cannot play an encore." After the elements were silent, holding their breath while they listened attentively to their favorite love song. One day, Hanja thought to himself, "If I marry Kamanza, her magic garden will belong to me." He dispatched a messenger to tell her of this idea. Yet Hanja was so terribly stupid that he did not think of love. Don't you have to love someone in order to marry them? Hanja felt only anger and greed and wanted to conquer the world that way. Do you know why that was? Can you guess? Chapter 2. How the caravan met Kamanza. At the time, a caravan of merchants were traveling through the desert. It came from Queen Elizabeth I of England. The caravan was intended to find new routes to connect the new and the old worlds. When the merchants saw Kamanza's oasis, they decided to invite Kamanza to visit the Queen in England. The Queen loved beautiful, unusual things. Kamanza was delighted by the invitation. She asked her friends, the cloud and lightning, for their advice and decided to travel to England with the caravan. It is very hard to manage on one's own in such a huge desert of evil when one has only a small oasis of good. Kamanza believed that she would find many new friends in England who would help her to transform the desert of evil into a wonderful garden of love. Chapter 3. The Queen. Now Kamanza is already in England with the Queen. She is very excited and has practiced her most beautiful melody the whole morning long. She has tuned all her strings and rubbed them with rosin. The Queen was enchanted with the beautiful, delicate melody that Kamanza played. The unusual silvery sound was an entrancing as the sense of an oriental night. The Queen laughed when she tried to draw a note out of Kamanza. It was really not easy. Also, the English Queen could play the lute, an instrument like a guitar. She played it very well. She suggested that she and Kamanza should play a tune composed by her father. Do you know the tune? With your 14 strings, you are much more complicated than violins with only 4 strings. Kamanza was naturally very happy at the thought that many musicians will play on her. A violin maker took a great deal of trouble to represent her head like a cupid with closed eyes. When Kamanza looked in the mirror, she was pleasantly surprised to see that she had an elegant waist and was very delicate. A musician said to her, "You have changed into a viola d'amour, a violin of love."